indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for being here tonight. We'll get started by approving our agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda as presented? Well, I would like to add a discussion item. Discussion item number 4, I'd like to talk about briefly our bylaw regarding public participation at board meetings. Emily raised an issue, a privacy concern, about asking for addresses of speakers. And I actually got some guidance on that last week at the Michigan Council of School Attorneys Fall Conference. So it's like a 2-minute discussion just to show you what we learned. With that, is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
President Van Antwerp, I move that the Board of Education approve the agenda as amended.
Thank you, Terry. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion passes, and we'll get started with the superintendent's report. John?
All right. Thank you, President Van Antwerp and members of the Portage Public Schools Board of Education. It's our annual time to talk about our audit. So our Director of Finance, Paula Johnson, will kick this off for us.
And Superintendent Edwards. It's that time of year again. Another fiscal year has been closed, the 24-25 school year, and Kim Lindsay from Raymond, principal there, is here to present the highlights to the board in regards to our 24-25 school year. So I'm going to turn it over to Kim.
Thanks, Paul. Good evening, board. I'm here to just briefly go over the audit results. We met with finance prior to this meeting and went over things in a little more depth and took their questions. But if you have any other further questions, you can ask me tonight, or if there's something you'd like to pose out, just shoot it to Paula and she'll get it to me. So that being said, which way do I need to point?
Get disconnected.
Uh-oh. We got disconnected somehow. Great. Disconnected from Vivi.
Morgan, you have the paper copy of the slides? Would you like me to just go ahead and start? Yeah. Hold you. No problem.
It keeps looping me.
Yeah. Let me just go ahead and, you guys have paper copies there? All right, I'll just run through. First of all, I'd like to thank Paula and Sammy and the rest of the team in the finance department for pulling this off another year. I mean, getting ready for an audit is a huge undertaking. It's something they probably work on for a couple of months, getting ready for us to get there. So I'm going to run through a few slides here. So you kind of touched on the highlights. So first of all, the district did receive an unmodified or a clean audit opinion, which is the highest form of assurance we can give you on your financial reports. We didn't have any findings or reportable conditions, which is also a really good thing. This year for the federal audit, we audited, thank you. We audited Title I and the remaining education stabilization funds, so about $1.5 million of your $3.9 million total. You'll notice tonight you don't have a federal audit report in your package. So we still don't have a compliance supplement from the federal government. So the state was nice enough, after much arm twisting, to actually write into this year's State Aid Act that the federal audit is not due until 30 days after we actually get a compliance supplement issued. So the problem they were going to have was there were going to be 740 school districts without getting a November state aid payment because the financial packages wouldn't have been uploaded timely. So they were able to work with us, and we got some things done. Also, board, I think you remember, each year, any bonded construction funds and your sinking fund, and now sinking funds plural, have to be audited with some specific regulations by the Michigan Department of Treasury. So that was done. The only place you see that is in your audit report. There is a footnote that talks about the fact that we audited those funds and everything was good. There's also a separate submission that Paula's team does to the state. That's basically a series of questions. So they see every year whether or not those funds are being audited. Some items of note in the audit report itself on pages 13 to 23 is the document we called Management's Discussion and Analysis. So throughout the year, Paula and Sammy are providing narrative information to you all the time on things that are happening, what's going on with the budget. So this MD&A, we call it, actually is a summarization of what happened this year. Did things go up? They go down? How did we do against our budget? So that's really a nice little snippet you can pull out, especially if a taxpayer is wondering, how did we do this year? How did the school district perform? That's a great place to look. At the front of the financial statements, I talk about this with you every year, we have two full accrual statements, a statement of net position and a statement of activities. When you look at that statement of net position, which is your balance sheet, on the full accrual basis, you'll actually see a deficit at the bottom of that report. Pretty much like every other school district in the state of Michigan. And that's because you are required to pick up your proportionate share of the retirement plan's unfunded pension liability. So as you can see, this year, that number for Portage Public Schools is almost $131 million versus about $175 million last year. The flip side of that is the retiree health care portion of the retirement plan. So that plan itself became overfunded in fiscal year 24 slightly. So you can see you were about $3 million of an asset for that plan last year. That's grown to $23 million this year. The ending result is that we do show a small deficit on that statement. Not a deficit the state is concerned about. They're concerned about deficits in the general fund. This is on the full accrual statements. And that OPEB asset, if you remember this, at the end of the fiscal year 24, that was kind of the switcheroo that was done by the legislature in the last minute on the budget, where they said, oh, we're overfunded there, so we're going to reduce that rate. Hence, we're giving you more money, but they didn't increase your foundation allowance. So, also still talking about those government-wide numbers, the change in net position or your net income per se on those full accrual statements was an increase of about $34 million. Almost all of that relates to that change in the pension valuation, the liability decreasing. Total revenues across the district on a full net, so takes out any transfers and stuff between funds, was about $160 million. This last year is compared to about $159 million last year. Last year you still had some significant ESSER funds. This year that was gone, but you have property tax increases and some categorical increases in state aid. So, and then overall expenses, about $126 million this year as opposed to about $132 million last year. Once again, most of that change is related to that pension valuation change. And those expenses number on this statement actually include depreciation and such too, which you don't have, we don't budget for that. All right, looking at some small numbers. These are the fund level financial statements. I'll just remind you, board, the columns you see across the top are the funds that are considered to be major for the district. So major just means magnitude. In that column next to the far right is another column that says non-major funds. There are about 6 or 7 other funds, smaller funds. The largest of those being the sinking fund and the food service fund. They're included in those totals out to the right, but on an individual basis, they're not large enough to be reported on their own. So I'll just touch on a couple of highlights here. General fund, at the end of June, assets were about $48 million, mainly money in the bank, money invested, and money owed to us from the state of Michigan for state aid for July and August, plus reimbursements on grants. Liabilities of about $17 million. A big chunk of that is accrued wages for our teachers who are paid over the summer for wages earned as of June, along with all their benefit packages, including retirement. So ending fund balance at the end of June was just over $31 million. The unassigned or the available to appropriate portion of that is about $24.8 million. So general fund is in good shape health-wise. Just kind of looking across the three capital projects funds that are showed here, you can see the 2021 capital projects fund is basically fully spent. There was only about $7,700 left. We did close out the 2023 capital projects fund, and the 2025 capital projects fund has just begun. So you can see large amounts of equity still there. Looking at revenue and expense, once again, general fund revenues, almost $126 million of revenue, expenditures of about $122 million this last year, an add to fund balance of about $3.9 million, which is a bit more than what you had budgeted. You can see we spent down those capital projects funds, $23.5 million on the 2021 fund to basically close that out, another $10.5 million on the 2023 fund, and then, as I said before, just getting started on the 2025 capital projects, only about $3.8 million of expenditures. You'll see revenues there of about $44.4 million. We sold bonds this year in that fund, so that's the big number there. Looking at revenue sources in that general fund, pretty typical district, 73% of every dollar that comes into the district comes from the state of Michigan. A big chunk of that is the foundation allowance, but it's also a ton of categorical grants. As you know, board, over the last several years, we went crazy on categoricals. And with this budget we have for 2026, we've shrunk those categoricals back significantly. Local at 26%, that's property taxes mainly, along with investment earnings and such. So there's a piece of the foundation allowance both in the local pie and in the state pie, because some of it is funded locally through those property taxes. Only 1% of the dollars that you get are from federal grant programs. Very, very small for a district this size, but it also is reflective of the demographics of the district. Looking at expenditures, this is what I call the district's report card. So the blue piece of the pie here are direct instructional expenditures, so dollars spent directly in the classroom. That's everything from wages for your teachers and paras, along with all their benefit packages, any supplies, capital outlay that may fall into the classroom. So at 59%, that's a very healthy number. It's a good comparative number on a statewide level as well. Supportive services at 38% is kind of everything else. Administration, transportation, operations and maintenance, all those big chunks, and also a lot of professionals, counselors, things like that who aren't in the classroom are also in that piece of the pie. 2% on athletics, 1% on community service. Congratulations, by the way, on your state championship in soccer. I did have to tell board members at the finance committee meeting, I live in Byron Center, so it's a bad thing, but I think Central's going to do that to Byron Center this Friday. Budget results for the general fund. Remember, you go through a significant number of budget processes through the year. The first one was back in June of last year. You adopted the initial budget, and in the audit report, that initial column are those numbers from June of 2024. Then you amended the budget at least twice during the year, the last time being at your board meeting in June. So on the audit report itself, the final budget will be that budget from this last June, and then of course actual results. So looking at the top line there is revenues. You actually came in about $414,000 more than your budget estimate of $125.4 million. Expenditures came in under the budgeted amount of expenditures by about $4.4 million. So expenditures were budgeted at $126.3 million. So overall, you had, in that final budget, you had budgeted a change in fund balance to use a little fund balance, about $890,000. It was actually an add to fund balance of $3.9 million. So a positive variance of about $4.8 million overall, which was still like 3%. So a couple of other pieces of information. Total outstanding bond debt at the end of the fiscal year was $221.6 million. You paid back $12.3 million of those bond issuances, along with a whole bunch of interest as well. And then you issued $43.38 million of new bonds with the 2025 Capital Projects Fund. Capital assets net of depreciation in the year were just north of $284 million. That will grow as you continue on with your construction projects. You added $38.4 million of additions in fiscal year 25, and you had $7.9 million of depreciation recorded. So you've been very fortunate. I think I've been standing up here for many years. You've had an active bond issuance, I think, for almost the whole time I've been an auditor here. So very fortunate that the public trusts you with those bonds and you're making great use of them. Any questions?
Yes, and this may be for Paula. But so where did we end the year in terms of our percent fund balance, general fund?
20.
I don't have highlighted.
Unassigned or overall?
Overall was mid-20s.
And unassigned was like 22?
Probably, yeah, that's probably right.
I'm sorry, I don't have the bound copy with me.
I think I left mine in my office accidentally.
You have, at the end of the year, you had over $4 million of state category grants that we had received the cash for, and we've not yet expended. So those will get spent in this next year. Most of that being 31A at risk and the 31AA funds that you receive. So, questions I can answer.
Not a question, but a comment. That your attention to detail, both Paula and Sammy, is once again incredible. Their ability to predict things, I'm always amazed. But we are so lucky to have you guys taking care of things.
You will see that audit for the federal grants whenever we do get that compliance supplement, and Paula will be bringing that to you, I'm sure, for approval as well. So.
I might even have Sammy do it, because Sammy handles all the federal stuff. So we, under monitoring point 2.5, we have to accept the audit. Right? We're only accepting financial statements and so on with the federal audit.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time, Board.
Thanks, Kim.
Thanks.
Thank you to Paul and Sammy for all your work on that. Appreciate the good results and the good work everybody does here to make sure they stay good, so thank you.
And Paul is going to stay up for our next superintendent update related to our state budget.
Tonight, I thought I would just touch on a couple of highlights for what actually ended up coming out of the state budget for this year. At the time that we adopted our budget in June, we had no hopes of when the government or the House and the Senate would come together and actually pass something. Well, they took it down to the wire of, September 30th into the wee hours of the night. We probably closed down for a couple hours. They passed a continuation budget so that the previous year's budget could stay in place for the new year, and the governor signed a budget on October 7th. So everything ran extremely late as far as timing for this year from what we're accustomed to. And our foundation allowance for the 24-25 year was the $9,608 a pupil, but if you recall, and Kim touched on this in his presentation as well, and I've said it many times to the board, we did not receive an increase in our foundation allowance for 24-25. We received a categorical, otherwise known as 147A4, And that was approximately $369, almost $370 per pupil. But it wasn't added to that base foundation allocation. So when you see the reports of what actually came through for the 25-26 school year, they're funding us at $10,050, which sounds great. It's a 4.4% increase. But if you look at the numbers from what didn't get added to our foundation allowance in 24-25, it's a difference of about a $72 increase per pupil, is what we actually ended up getting for the year that they didn't add to our foundation allowance. So just be careful when you are reading information in the news in regards to, record funding. They didn't take into consideration what we're missing out from the 24-25 school year. The at-risk allocation across the statewide allocation was increased by 25%, but because it is based on socioeconomic status, our increase will not be that 25% for at-risk, but we're still receiving at-risk, so that's a positive. 31AA funding still stayed in the budget at approximately $140 per pupil for districts that do opt into wanting to accept those funds. They passed, and they had leftover money from 24-25. So they passed an additional omnibus bill to give districts a one-time funding that we will not see in future years, called 27-4, which is a MIPSR's healthcare allocation. They're rolling part of that healthcare cost into our retirement rate now. And so they're giving us money to help offset that expense to our budget of approximately $850,000. But in the process of the new year budget, they took away a MIPSR's categorical that we didn't have to give back to the state of Michigan, that we were actually able to hold on to, the 147A1 of $630,000. So if you compare $630,000 that we lost from the MIPSR's categorical up against the $850,000 that they're giving us, okay, it's $220,000 to the good. Transportation funding continues. Free breakfast and lunch continued, which is a huge positive for our students. They even threw in non-public schools this time around to receive the breakfast and lunch. Enrollment stabilization is in there for districts that are experiencing declining enrollment, but it's intended to be half of your foundation allowance for the amount of students that you lose, but they only allocate a set dollar amount, and they have to allocate that across all the districts. And with a lot of districts experiencing declining enrollment, you really don't receive half of the foundation allowance. It ends up coming in less. So all in all, it's a decent budget, but we really did lose out from the 24-25 year not having it added to the foundation allowance. So it'll take a little while to get caught up from losing out on that revenue. But we will be working on amending the budget as soon as we finish up a few of the items associated to closing the year, such as the qualifying statement and the continuing disclosure and count and all of that fun stuff. And then we'll roll to amending the budget to where we can bring you what things are projected to look like now based on the changes that are happening in both revenue, and we'll have an accurate fall count number, which we're working through right now as well. So just, those are my highlights. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, I don't have any questions, but thank you very much for briefing us on all that.
It's just a Cliff Note version.
That's good. That's perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. And the last and final portion of the superintendent's report, Russ and Michelle, related to our bond update and something's happening special tomorrow.
Yes. Good evening, Board. Superintendent Edwards. I'm excited to bring with you the bond report for today. Kind of jump into it maybe. So we're gonna jump right into Woodland Elementary. We've got a little diagram here for you. This kind of is a silhouette to the layout of the building. I talked last time about how they broke it into Unit A, B, and C. Right now, the construction is, Choice Concrete, they did the concrete foundation for the entire building, so the entire building's foundation is in. And now we moved on to basically laying brick, putting electrical conduit in the walls, not necessarily the wire, but the conduit, and we got plumbing going into the groundwork for plumbing, so any plumbing that's underground, they're running those lines as well. But it's kind of, most of the work right now is focused in Unit B. So if you go out, drive by the site, you're gonna see a lot of, this is kind of a distance away from the site. Right there is the foundation work for Unit C you see there, but in the distance there, you'll start seeing the bricks and the metal work going up. That's all in Unit B right now. And that's where all the primary work is taking place in Unit B. The reason they're doing Unit B is the two-story part of the building. So they're building the first layer, and then the brick layers will move to Unit A, and then what's called prefabricated concrete will come in, and that'll be the decking for the second floor. So they'll be putting that on Unit B, and then once they get that on Unit B, the bricklayers will come back to B, build the second floor, and then they'll move to another portion of the building. So what I got here is just some samples. I got some outside shots of the building so far. This is looking up at the building towards the playground. What the kind of irrelevant really what it looks like. It's just a whole bunch of blocks up right now, but once you get the landscape and everything in, you'll really see the building transform. But you can see we got nice big windows and things in there for the kids to get great daylight. Here's the side. This is, if you know that this is the north side of the building, shooting down towards the playground if you look that direction. Again, this is another classroom view, plenty of windows into the classrooms. Now we're moving into the building. Not a lot to notice what part of the building you're in, but they are starting to build the interior walls of the building. A lot of metal work going up for a frame to brace that second floor once they start bringing the precast concrete in. Gonna flip through some pictures. If you want me to stop and more, let me know. But you can see there's a lot of structural work taking place in the building. Here's a view of inside of one of the classrooms. Kind of what I got for you today. It's not a lot, because there's a really kind of, this is kind of the slow part of the building where they have to, the bricklayers are throwing up the bricks. There's about 8 guys on the crew right now. Each bricklayer throws a little over 100 bricks a day, so about 800 bricks getting laid per day in the building. So it will take a while. There's a lot of bricks that make up the building, but they're moving. Right now they're tracking for all the timelines are tracking. So you should see that prefabricated floor decks coming here in by the end of the month. So we're excited to see that. Then you'll start seeing them go up on that second level, and then you'll start seeing the height of the building come into play and those type of things. But that's all I got for the construction side of it. Is there any questions on the construction side?
Thanks for the photos. That's great. Appreciate it.
Okay, I'm looking forward to having some more exciting photos as we get further along into the project. These are kind of, you see a lot of gray brick going up right now. So,
How much does winter weather slow things down?
it will slow things down because with bricklaying, you have to, it has to be a certain temperature, so you'll start seeing basically tents being built around the building with tarps and everything, and then they heat that area up. And then they'll keep laying brick. It's not going to slow the brick. They're not going to stop laying bricks. It's just going to slow their productivity down a little. But all the days we have like today, we kind of joke like, "Go, you're making money right now," because you get beautiful weather like we've had all fall. You can make some good money as bricklayers because you can get a lot of bricks laid, and then that just means you get completed faster. You get completed faster, you can start the next job and make more money. So they're kind of really talking like, let's keep it moving. You know, they're doing good work too. Very impressive how they have basically jigs they use to put over bricks. So they got to put an outlet in or something. They'll put a jig in so they know exactly how to cut it. So in theory, when you go to see so the outlets over there, they'll be perfectly cut in. There won't be any extra on the outside where it kind of looks funny. They're doing a really good job. Really attention to detail. They scrub the bricks after they're done laying them for the last day. So some bricklayers will wait weeks and then go back and scrub. They scrub the next day and then evaluate their work and then keep moving on. They're very attention to detail right now. So hopefully they can continue that process and give us a nice product, turn over to the next groups.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If there's no other questions on the construction side, I'm going to hand it over to Michelle. She's going to give you kind of an update on the marketing side as we go into tomorrow's vote.
Yeah, so while Russ and Johnny have been building buildings, we've been focused on the next phase of finishing the job. So I think it was back in August, I kind of came up and gave you an overview of how we were going to, educate the community on what we had going on with our bond. And so it felt appropriate the night before election night to kind of give you a roundup of what we've done over the past few months. So as you know, we produced a video with our partner, Rick Chambers and Associates, to inform the community about the bond. And then we took that longer form video, while that certainly lived on our bond website. We chunked that into chunks, shorter form, about different topics about the bond, what it would accomplish, how COVID impacted our finances, the financial impact, and all those things. Split those up into little videos that we've been running regularly every 2 or 3 days, along with other static posts since September. We've done a total of 44 different posts over the last, 12 weeks or so on both Facebook and Instagram. And there's some really interesting statistics here, so I'd like to share them with you. The reach is individual, unique people clicking on, looking at that particular post. And so throughout those 44, our average reach of each post was 1,209 unique accounts. So that's pretty exciting. Some were more, some were less. There was higher engagement at the beginning, and then it started to drop as people obviously saw those things and were familiar with them. Likes, comments, and shares, which is kind of reactions, the next phase of engagement with a social media post, averaged about 21.7 likes, shares, or comments on all of those posts as well. We also did, we had radio spots on 3 different radio stations in the area. We had a billboard, electronic billboard on Westnedge by the Meijer there by the highway that rotated through. Hopefully, I never did see it. Hopefully somebody saw it because I didn't. I just was not over there when it was going around. So that was to drive people to the website to find out more information. We had it on all the school websites, all the news feeds. We had something in the District Extra that went out to the community. Johnny did a radio interview with WKZO, a live radio in studio, and he also held 2 informational sessions. In addition, like I said, some of the engagement in our social media posts had gone down over time as people saw those posts. So last Thursday we had a wild idea, and we recruited Johnny to come meet us at Woodland and do a quick little video just encouraging people to get out there to vote. And if you didn't know, he almost went viral. That video, since last Thursday, has had a total of 7,473 views. 119 of those viewers clicked through to the board website to get more information, and there were 119 reactions. So if you look at everything over the last few months, our total reach for the last 30 days was over 96,000 accounts. Now, some of those might be repeats to different things. And then the reach for the very top post was 27,000. So hopefully the community is aware and has understood our why with finishing the job, and we'll find out the results tomorrow night. I'll answer any questions if you have them.
Well, that's great. Thanks for sharing that information with us. That was really interesting. Wow, good work. Thanks a lot.
That concludes superintendent report for tonight.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to our comments and communications section, and we have one speaker this evening, Kat Frank, our PEA president. Welcome, Kat.
I'm pleased to share some exciting highlights that show the spirit and dedication of our staff and students. First, from the classroom, Sarah Miller at Northern High took the time to meet one-on-one with every freshman and senior in her classes as Q1 came to a close. I don't know how she found the time. During these conferences, she asked each student how they're doing as readers, and the responses were inspiring. More than half of her students lit up when they talked about reading. Many have read more books this quarter than ever before and enjoyed exploring new genres. Sarah credits this growth to 10 minutes a day of sustained silent reading, and most importantly, letting students choose what they're reading. Thanks to Sarah and all of our ELA educators. IB coordinators at PC and PN organized time for almost all IB educators last week to do a data dive where we looked at detailed reports on how our students performed last year. Although it's tough to be pulled out of the classroom, this analysis was extremely worthwhile and will help us make adjustments for this year's students and testers. Thanks to Jason Frink for being part of the organizing team. Haverhill's annual Pumpkin Book Character Contest was a success. Families did a great job creating some amazing character displays. Big thank you to everyone who participated and to Rachel Silliman for organizing this fun and creative event. Now from the field, as was mentioned earlier, Portage Central Mustangs are 2025 Division I state champions in men's soccer. From the first whistle of the season to the final kick in Grand Ledge, this team demonstrated heart, grit, and true Mustang pride every step of the way. Congratulations to the players and coaches, including head coach and PC teacher Tim Halloran, JV coach and Central Middle School teacher Andrew Marble, and the entire coaching staff. This team brought home the first state title in program history, and we are so proud. One of the players, who I won't say here for student name confidentiality, was also just named Mr. Soccer, which is the highest individual honor in Michigan high school soccer, and I believe he's the first goalkeeper to ever receive the award as well. Super proud. Thank you to everyone who continues to make Portage a place where all students can thrive in the classroom, on the field, and beyond.
Thank you, Kat. Great report. We appreciate it. Thank you. Are there any comments by board trustees this evening?
Well, congratulations again to PC. I think it's been 25 years since we've had a state champion team on the other side of town, so it's great now that both of our schools have had state titles in soccer. Great to see.
For sure, Terry. Thank you. Anyone else?
I wanted to say well done for the entire team that produced Alice by Heart at Portage Central, and I'm looking forward to seeing Young Frankenstein at Portage Northern. I also wanted to give a shout out to both marching bands on very impressive seasons, not necessarily in scores or wins, because we're just proud of them in general, but I was impressed with both shows and wanted to give a shout out to both bands and to the hard work that goes into producing those. The students have worked very hard and it shows.
Thank you, Kimberly. Anyone else?
Randy, just a quick comment. Johnny, your team, Michelle, I mean, what you all have done in terms of communicating the bond that's on the ballot now has been, everywhere you turn, you see something. So it's notable and it's very much appreciated.
And I did see that sign. It was fun to see.
Okay then, we'll move to our consent agenda, and this evening we only have one item, and that's the minutes from the October 2025 Policy Governance Retreat and regular business meeting. Are there any exceptions to the consent agenda as presented? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved, and we'll move to assurance of district performance, and we'll start on page 11 with monitoring report 2.2, treatment of staff. Jenny.
All right. Thank you, Randy. This is the first of 3 monitoring reports tonight. The first of which is related to 2.2, our treatment of staff. There are 6 subsections underneath our treatment of staff, and the board has had an opportunity to read this in its entirety, so I'll just do a high-level overview. Starting on page 13, a few years ago we started a PPS Staff Academy. First of all, Brad Galen and his team leads the overall onboarding process for all new staff members, including teachers. In addition to this work, our CIA team has instituted the PPS Staff Academy for new teachers, and they meet periodically throughout the school year, after school, and they receive training on various topics from different departments within our organization. Moving over to page 14, our work, we call it rounding. We've been trained by our consultants, our leadership team, with student education, in which we do what we call 30 and 90-day interviews, particularly related to our new staff. So for example, even I, as a new superintendent, I round with our entire exec team, but specifically there are 2 new members, cabinet members, and Russ and Ann, who's on the exec team. So I do a different version of rounding with them. And 2 of the questions, is there anything we can do better? And what are your ideas for improvement? Obviously, Ann has been with us for several years, but she still have great ideas for us. And obviously, Russ coming in from another community, another school district. Again, another opportunity for us to improve by hearing what that is like. Beyond the rounding, we talk about the employee experience survey. This is given to employees in the spring of each year. And what I've shared on page 15 is some data points. We've been fortunate now to get our number of participants up to 580. A couple of years ago, we were 475, so that's good. And with us increasing by over 105 individuals, our numbers have remained pretty steady or constant overall. As I may have shared the last time about how these numbers work, our top box percentages are those who rate us a 5 or strongly agree. Our top 2 would be employees who either agree or strongly agree. And then that net promoter comes from a particular question that says, what percentage of your respondents would strongly agree or agree with the prompt? I would recommend that parents select my organization. So of the 580 participants, roughly 3/4 of them rated that as a 4 or a 5. Beyond those pieces, we obviously continue to have professional development for our staff. November 7th, this Friday, is our upcoming Professional Development Day. An area that we added to this monitoring report related to number 4. And the national teacher turnover rate dating back to 23-24 school year was approximately 7%. And what I've done is I wrote a narrative, but I used a chart on page 16 to show while the overall district numbers for our teacher turnover rate was as high as 7.21% in 22-23 school year, 4.62 in 23-24 school year, and then last year 6.656%. All of those numbers essentially range at or below what the national rate is. And if we were to exclude retirements from this teacher turnover rate, because as we know, every year we're going to have some retirements, 2 years ago, that would have been a 2.2% turnover rate, and then 3.64 last year. In addition to all of that work related to our treatment of staff, this year I've started the Superintendent Educator Circle, comprised of 28 individuals from across the district, selected by their peers to meet with me once a month to talk about different topics related to our school district. It's another way to get some great two-way communication. And even though we've only had one meeting thus far, it was well attended. 26 of the 28 were there, and people provided some good feedback to me related to how we can improve the circle, but also ideas around improving our school district. So I'm really looking forward to that experience throughout this school year. Lastly, just finishing up the other subsections related to personnel. We definitely have board-approved Neola policies that we follow, as well as administrative guidelines, which relates to some elements of how we work within each other. We also have master agreements, and those master agreements for contract, transportation contracts, all of which contains a grievance process that's clearly laid out. And based on the data and things that I've seen related to those grievance process, related to any type of discrimination against any staff member or the like, we have had less than 5 or so of those, which is less than 0.5%. when you think about the totality of the employees in Portage Public Schools. So, but that's a high-level overview of my report, and I would be happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Not a question, but a comment. Appreciate what's going on. So in our retreat last month, we were talking about 2.1, treatment of customers, and a part of that discussion bled over into 2.2, treatment of staff. And I would encourage us as a board in a future retreat to spend more time on this and to really take a look at what our expectations are in terms of treatment of staff. And I think, we've adjusted some words here over the years. We put kind of high performance in here. I'd like us to be clearer about that. And sometimes I think I look at 2.2, and what we've stated is we don't want to fall below a threshold of performance, but I would encourage us to wrestle with the language to say that we aspire to a higher level of performance. And, and the phrase kind of best place to work. Would we be afraid to aspire to that? And the work, and frankly, the patience that would require. And we have a new superintendent whose values are there and whose skills are there. And if given the right target and some time, we might be able to get there. So right now, we're at on a 5-point scale, we're at about a 3.9, and the really highest organizations can get to a 4.2 or a 4.3. And I hate to reduce it to numbers, but we're asking our staff, and kind of that's what it boils down to. And so this was my one opportunity this whole board year cycle to talk about this. It's on the agenda. And so I just wanted to plant the seed. And maybe at a future retreat we can get back to it. And as we do at retreats, we spend a lot of time kind of figuring out the specific words and kind of, where are we? But anyway, just wanted to take the opportunity to do that plug, and Johnny just wanted to support your efforts and all the good things going on.
I have really appreciated everything you've talked about, both retreats and here, and now about the Superintendent Educator Circle. And I am looking forward to hearing really good things continuing from that, and just hearing the results that you receive, or if changes occur because of it, or positives that come from it. I'm looking forward to it.
Anyone else? There's a motion to approve this monitoring report on page 11.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education accept monitoring report 2.2, treatment of staff, as a reasonable interpretation and evidence of compliance with policy.
Thank you, Mark. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of approving monitoring report 2.2, treatment of staff, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. And we'll move on to page 23 for our next monitoring report, compensation and benefits.
Thank you again, President Van Antwerp. Monitoring report 2.3, compensation and benefits, has 5 subsections under there. The first of which talks about superintendent shall not change his or her own compensation and benefits. As I outlined in the report, my contract was entered upon July 1 of 2025. The board approved that June 30th of 2025, and that contract is a 3-year contract. And both our payroll and our salary benefits departments, they have a copy of those, human resources and payroll, to make sure that the compensation agreed upon between the board and myself is enacted properly. Moving on to other things beyond the superintendent, it talks about superintendent shall not promise or imply permanent or guaranteed employee. That's for all staff. We have, for example, administrative contracts. Those administrative contracts are approved on a 2-year basis. The board approves those every other year. We have other collective and bargaining agreements with different employee groups, including our teacher association and even our new teachers. are considered to be probationary teachers during their first 5 years of employment with the district. And then upon that 5-year probationary period, they are subject to the Teacher Tenure Act. Moving down to 2.3, subsection 3 talks about the superintendent shall not establish current compensation and benefits which deviate materially from the geography or the geographic or professional market for the skills and employed. And I want to say that our team, HR, as well as our business department has done a great job of making sure that they evaluate every single employee group's compensation related to neighboring districts, and particularly within our market, within education. And I feel really comfortable with what we've been able to do. And I believe that we are on the forefront in many areas that some districts are even following suit with us with what we're paying or offering to our employee groups. So I'm really proud of that, of the work that we've done. Obviously, people always say we can do more, but we also have some limits or constraints financially that we want to stay within. So I want to say that our employee groups in all subject areas or all areas are within our geographic market there. Moving over to 2.3, section 4, talks about our financial obligations, and I think we've done a great job with those projections. The board last approved 2.5 October 14, 2024. Tonight we'll hear a little bit more about 2.5, the external portion, which you heard from our auditor today, and there'll be a recommendation from Paula next. And I feel really happy and comfortable with where we are financially as a district. We have made a number of great financial decisions long before I became the superintendent. So hats off to the board, our previous superintendent, as well as our business department, all those that play an integral role in managing our funds and our resources. So that would conclude my elements related to compensation and benefits. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have about Monetary Report 2.3.
Very good report, Jen.
I would just add on the competitive wages and, you know, in line with the market. Every February, MDE publishes bulletin, what, 1014?
1014, I believe that's it, yes.
And it gives, right, all the districts' average compensation per teacher, and we look at Kalamazoo County, and PPS and KPS are always the two that are separated from the rest of the pack, and we're always a little bit ahead of KPS. You know, proud to see that.
Any other comments on this report? There's a motion, please, to approve it on page 23.
President Van Antwerp, I move that the Board of Education accept monitoring report 2.3, compensation and benefits as a reasonable interpretation and evidence of compliance with policy.
Thank you, Mary Lou. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Whoever Barb captured. All those in favor of approving Monitoring Report 2.3, compensation and benefits, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. The monitoring report is approved. And we move now to our monitoring report 2.5, financial condition and activities. And this is our external report. The internal report will be provided next month. And there's a motion on page 31, please, to approve the financial report and management letter from the audit.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education accept the 2024-25 financial report and management letter as presented.
Thank you, Bo. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Paula, did you have some comments?
Actually, I don't.
It's always good to see you. Thanks. Okay, then. All those in favor of approving Monitoring Report 2.5, financial condition activities, the audit report and management letter, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion passes and the audit is approved. Our next item is a discussion item on page 36, our summer tax resolution. Paula?
evening, Board of Ed and Superintendent Edwards. Included in your board packet this evening for discussion is a formality of an item that we bring to the board each year. We have to pass a resolution before the end of December to notify the city of Portage of our intent to levy property taxes in the summer. A large portion of our property tax revenue is generated through the city of Portage. It does help us with cash flow purposes. For example, had we not received, state aid on time, having that money come in over the summer allows us to not have to borrow as well. It's for discussion tonight, and then it'll be voted on at the next meeting. So, any questions?
Because I don't understand, just clarification for me, like a tutoring here. In the third paragraph, it says, in conjunction with other districts in Kalamazoo County who levy taxes in the city of Kalamazoo, we continue to analyze the possibility of collecting summer taxes with them as they have updated their charter.
We collect tax revenue from the city of Kalamazoo, Pavilion Township, and Texas Township. We could pass resolutions to also receive tax summer, move all of us to 100%, all of our municipalities to 100% summer levy, but we only choose to do this with the city of Portage because it has the largest, it's our largest collector regarding property taxes. The city of Kalamazoo, Pavilion, and Texas Township are a very small percentage of our tax revenue, and those are levied in the wintertime, and we receive those payments in December, January, and February before they close out property tax collection and settle with the county. So we always look at that as a possibility, but it still hasn't grown large enough that it's gonna be worth it for us to do. So that's what that means.
Okay, thanks.
I think it's important that this allows us to not have to borrow operating funds in order to pay for teacher salaries and the variety of things that many districts have to borrow for. As someone who doesn't like debt, that's a good thing.
A lot of districts were anticipating having to pull state aid notes in case we didn't get our October state aid payment. That's how tight cash flow can be for some of the other districts.
So Paul, is it correct that, are we the only district in the area that benefits from this? I mean, could we say something to that? Would that be true?
I don't know if any of the other school districts that receive the city of Portage property taxes go for a summer levy. I'd have to check with them to ask, but 95% of our tax revenue comes from the city of Portage, so it's worth it for us to do, for us as a district to do this. Is it worth it for any of the other school districts that receive tax levy from the city of Portage? I'd have to check with each individual district that does receive city of Portage taxes.
Yeah. I mean, I suspect the answer is we are the district who benefits from this, and it's fortunate. We're very fortunate.
Very good, thank you for that explanation, Paul. We look forward to taking action on that at our next meeting. Our next discussion item is purchase of school buses, and after that, purchase of pianos, and Russ has got both of them, and most of the time when Russ comes up, he needs money.
That's probably a truer statement that's never been said. Expensive, sorry. Looking at the buses, right now they're recommending the Board of Education purchase 5 buses to keep our replenish cycle for the transportation department going. We have about 61 buses in the fleet. The goal is to try to get 12 years out of the buses. We actually have 6 buses coming for renewal this year, which means they're on their 12th year. We're asking to replace 5 of those buses because one of them has pretty low mileage right now. So we're feeling we can get 1 more year out of that bus, and next year is kind of a lower year for a number of buses that would get replaced. So we're delaying that extra bus 1 more year just to try to balance it out a little more, try to get a more even cycle as we go. So of the 5 buses we're recommending, we're asking for 4 77 passenger buses and then 1 bus with a lift for special needs students. For the grand total will be $765,622, and it will come from the 2025 bond funds from the 2021 vote. New buses, obviously, will have all the security cameras and safety features that we want in our buses, just to keep our kids safe coming to school and going home in the evening. Is there any questions about this purchase?
I don't think so, Russ.
And then the next recommendation is the purchase of 2 pianos, piano dollies, and piano benches for the choir programs at both Portage Northern and Portage Central. This is the final step of the music item refresh. We did, this is like a 3-part process. This is the 3rd part. This will replace the pianos in those 2 choir programs at both high schools. So this will become from the 2019 unallocated contingency bond fund. So these will benefit our students tremendously. A lot of this equipment we've replaced of this was aging, so it was time. This is just the final step in that process. It's kind of the last hurrah, so to speak. Once this is done, we'll have all the items replaced, and we're feeling pretty good about where the music department sits district-wide. Is there any question on these purchases?
Is the board agreeable to take this to action this evening? There's a motion to do that on page 49, please.
I have a vested interest in music education, since my daughter is a music educator. So I would love to offer the motion.
It's all yours.
To move the purchase of pianos discussion to action.
Second.
All those in favor of moving the piano purchase item to action, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This is now at the action stage, and we need a motion, please.
I'll do that one too. Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve the purchase of 2 pianos and piano equipment from Sweetwater Sound for the total of $34,388, the funds for which will come from the 2019 unallocated contingency bond.
Second.
Yeah, very good. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the purchase of pianos, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes, and the pianos are on the way. Thank you, Russ. Okay, our next item is to go into closed session. I believe we're going to stay in this room, and we're probably not coming back for any action, correct? Okay.
We had added an item to the agenda.
Oh, I forgot my discussion item. It was
One item.
Yeah. Well, you see it at your place. Emily advised us at our last retreat that we might want to look at asking public participation folks. Might not want to ask them about their address, given privacy concerns and streaming of our meetings and all those things. And anyway, that just happened to be a topic at the Michigan Association of School Attorneys Conference at the MASB Fall Conference. And if you look down to C here on the bylaw, there's language that they suggested. Instead of asking provide their address, ask the question whether or not they reside within district boundaries. So that would be the change we'd have to make, and you notice after that it says specify the topic of their remarks, and that's because other things feed off this policy, like the sign-up sheet, and we want to know what the topic is so we can arrange the speakers. But anyway, so this would also change in the summary read by the secretary, and also would change the welcome to the Board of Education flyer that we have. And if you guys are good with this, we can put it on the agenda for our next meeting and approve it and make that change.
Sure.
That be okay? Okay, very good. Thank you, Emily, for pointing that out. Okay, now we're going to go into closed session. There's a motion on page 51, please.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education move into closed session under Section 8H of the Open Meetings Act to consider attorney-client privileged material.
Thank you, Terry. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mark. And this is a roll call vote, please, Bart.
Mrs. Rohr,
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford,
Yes.
Mrs. Novaria,
Yes.
Mr. Van Antwerp.
Yes.
Mr. Snyder,
Yes.
Ms. Larson,
Yes.
Dr. Stevenson.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes, and we'll now go into closed session in this room. So thank you very much.
Question and answer on page 30.
Oh,
Question
very
about
Okay.
answer.
They ready?
Thank you. It's from